My name's Alex, and this happened 2 summers ago in Oregon. I'd planned a solo camping trip near the Deschutes River. I wanted peace and quiet, just me, a fishing rod, and my tent. For the first 2 days, everything was perfect. The weather was warm, the water was calm, and I barely saw another soul. On the 3rd night, just after midnight, I was sitting by the fire when I heard it. A scream. A woman's scream, sharp and distant, carrying across the river. I froze. My first thought was maybe someone had fallen in, or maybe it was just coyotes. But then I saw her. Across the river, under the trees, a figure stood, a girl, maybe in her 20s. She was dripping wet, clothes clinging to her like she'd just come out of the water. She didn't move. She just stood there, staring at me. I shouted, "Hey, are you okay?" But she didn't answer. She turned suddenly and bolted into the woods. I couldn't shake it. I sat there for an hour, staring at the opposite bank. That's when the whispers started. Soft at first, then louder, circling my tent. I told myself it was the wind, but the whispers didn't sound like wind. Around 2 in the morning, I heard splashing, slow, deliberate steps in the river. I unzipped my tent, shining my flashlight. And that's when I saw her standing on my side of the river now, only 20 feet away. She was motionless, head tilted, smiling directly at my tent. I slammed the zipper shut and sat in the corner, clutching my bear spray. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. At some point, I must have blacked out, because when I opened my eyes, it was daylight. But my cooler was tipped over, food ripped apart, clothes scattered everywhere. Everything looked like it had been tossed and stomped. I grabbed my phone and drove straight to a gas station. Later, I came back with a ranger and 2 cops to collect the rest of my stuff. They searched the area but found no tracks, no signs of anyone. The cop told me there'd been a couple reports of a girl screaming near the river that summer, but nothing was ever found. To this day, I don't know if she was real or not, but I know I heard her, and I know she stood outside my tent smiling. My name's Ben. This happened last summer on a weekend trip with 5 of my mates. We drove out to a state forest, found a flat clearing and set up 2 tents. There was beer, burgers, a fire, the usual. We were all buzzing, tired, laughing, trying to forget work. About 11, when we were all a bit drunk and feeling brave, Darren suddenly got this stupid idea. He said, "Whoever goes 50 meters into those trees and comes back gets a hot meal tomorrow night." Most of us laughed, but Tom, always the one who wanted to prove stuff, said, "I'll do it." He swung his jacket over his shoulder and walked toward the dark line of trees like it was nothing. We watched him go for a while, the beam from his torch bobbing between trunks. Then the light stopped. We waited. 30 minutes passed and Tom still hadn't come back. The laughter died quiet. It went from fun to stupid fast. We decided to go find him. There were 6 of us, 2 with proper headlamps, the rest with phones that barely lit paths. The trees were close and the ground went down into a small hollow. We followed Tom's footprints at first, but they faded soon. The deeper we went, the heavier the air felt, like someone had put a weight on my chest. It wasn't just me. All of us kept saying the same thing out loud, half laughing in a scared way. "It feels heavy, like someone sat on my shoulders." We pressed on. The forest got dark and thick. Branches scratched at our faces. The only sounds were our boots on leaves and the soft buzz of the headlamps. After about half a kilometer, the trees opened a little into a small clearing. There, on the ground, Tom was lying face down. We rushed to him and shook him. He was breathing but nearly limp. His skin was cold. I could see mud on his shirt, scratches on his hands. We carried him back to the tents the best we could, 2 of us under his arms, another on his legs. No one wanted to talk. The walk back felt slower, like the forest didn't want us to leave. Back at camp, after about 20 minutes, Tom finally blinked, looked at each of our faces like he was surprised to see us. We asked him what happened. At first, he couldn't speak. Then he told us this. He'd walked in, deeper than the others, planning to come back and jump out and scare everyone. He said in the trees he saw a flare of light, like a small, bright torch, but blue-white. He moved toward it because he thought someone else might be lost. When he came close, he saw something nailed to a tree. It wasn't a person. It was made of clothes, sticks, and old bits of rope, like a scarecrow, only uglier. Tom said he felt watched. He said the air felt tight, like pressure pushing down on his chest. He tried to turn and run, but his legs went weak and he collapsed, and then nothing until we found him. We thought it was a prank at first. Who would do something like that? Who would make that thing and leave it up in the trees? We called the cops in the morning and drove back with him to the spot. He took pictures, looked at the tree, and frowned. He said someone had been there recently, but he didn't want to guess why. He said he'd mark it and check the area later, but we never heard more. If there's one thing I learned from that night, it's this. A dare is a small thing until it takes you into someone else's space. The woods can hold people who do strange things, and sometimes those things are left hanging on trees like signs you don't want to see. I grew up in Perth, Australia, and this happened during a camping trip on the Coral Coast. Me and two mates, Ryan and Luke, set up camp near the dunes overlooking the water. The first night was fine, but on the second, I woke up around 3 a.m. to footsteps. At first, I thought it was Ryan going to take a leak, but then I heard Ryan whisper from his tent. He was inside. The footsteps circled us, crunching slowly in the sand. Heavy steps, like boots. I whispered, "Luke, you out there?" But he muttered back from his own tent. All three of us were inside, wide awake, listening. The steps went on for what felt like an hour, sometimes stopping right outside, then moving again. We didn't dare look. When the sun finally rose, we crawled out. The sand around us was covered in prints, large boot marks leading in from the dunes. But here's the thing, they led in. None led back out. We walked out toward the beach, following them, but halfway across the sand, they just stopped. Like whoever it was disappeared into thin air. That night, we barely slept. Every gust of wind sounded like steps. Every shadow felt like someone was standing there, watching. My brother and I were camping in New Hampshire near a trailhead. Around 1 a.m., we both woke up to a sound that makes my skin crawl even now. A woman screaming. It started far away, echoing through the trees, then closer, then suddenly cut off. We grabbed our flashlights and ran to the tree line shouting, but there was nothing. The woods were dead silent. We went back to the fire and sat in silence, jumpy at every crack. At 3 a.m., the scream came again, but this time it wasn't distant. It was right behind our tents, high-pitched, raw, like someone was being torn apart. We didn't wait. We packed what we could, left the rest, and hiked to the car in pitch black. The cops we spoke to the next morning just shook his head. He said other campers had reported screams in those woods for years, but no one ever found a body. To this day, when I think about it, the thing that scares me most isn't the scream. It's the silence that followed, like whatever was out there wanted us to know it could get close. Summer nights in the woods might sound peaceful, but sometimes they hold things you can't explain or people you wish you'd never run into. If you've ever had something unexplainable happen while camping, share your story in the comments. Who knows, it might end up in one of our next videos.